Yeah, I don't even have that prime.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful tasting with the Virtual Tasting Society. My name is Vadim Perlovsky, and today we're excited to welcome back Herman, the founder of Dad's Hat Rye out of Pennsylvania. We have a fantastic lineup, some awesome swag to give away. So make sure you stick around for the end when we're going to do the randomizer. But yeah, we had Herman on a couple of years ago, and we're excited to have him back to taste some fantastic rye whiskey. I know last time we had you on, we created some lifelong fans of the brand. So I'm excited to do that again and check in on you and see how things are going and taste some of your latest and greatest expressions. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself, tell us about the brand and what we're tasting.
Okay. Well, my name's Herman Mihalich. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from as I was chatting with Tony earlier, I'm actually from the western part of the state originally. I'm from the Mon Valley and grew up in the apartment above my family's bar, and which was originally a speakeasy started by my grandfather in the 20s. My grandfather, who cut his teeth on rye whiskey made at the Gibson Distillery, which was located right on the Monongahela River until 1920, which was the largest whiskey distillery in North America until 1920. Um, so I grew up with it, in the bar atmosphere, and my grandpap was always a rye whiskey guy. My dad was as well. So in 2006, there was an article in the New York Times that said rye whiskey, which was basically a dying or almost dead category, was starting to make a comeback, and mostly on the back of a lot of sort of bartenders in Brooklyn who wanted to make their cocktails with rye whiskey and going back to old recipes for Manhattans and old fashions, which originally were made with rye whiskey. So, so that got my interest up. Talked to a few friends, and we put together a business plan and raised a bunch of money. And so in 2011, we started up and we are grain to glass. We make everything ourselves. We started our distillery in 2011. One little back step, in order to, even though I had some, believe it or not, I had some distilling skills from growing up. My grandpap and my dad had a little still, and I'm a chemical engineer by training, so it wasn't too far of a leap for me to go to, managing a distillery. And but we did spend some time at Michigan State University. Michigan State used to have a program called the Artisan Distillery Program, where you could go out and take an intensive training on distilling, learn different techniques, and use their equipment to run trials, which we did to test the what became eventually our basic recipe that we use pretty much all the time. So 2011, we started making rye whiskey. It's all we make. We don't do anything else except we just started playing around with apple brandy. But we're almost all we do is rye whiskey. So and we're making Pennsylvania rye whiskey. Now, because I'm going to be talking a lot tonight, you're going to have to excuse me because I'm going to have a little bit of something to lighten or loosen up my throat. So forgive me for starting before everyone else, but cheers. So when we did our research, our mash bill reflects the historical types of mash bills that were used going back into the 1800s in Pennsylvania. And for those of you who weren't here the first time or don't know, but Pennsylvania is really sort of where American whiskey was born. We started making whiskey in Pennsylvania in the late 1600s, early 1700s, mostly as a way to avoid buying rum from England. And it just so happened that Pennsylvania, as a Quaker colony, had a very sort of open policy regarding immigration, and people were of all different faiths were welcome. And at that time, some of the refugees coming from Europe were Swiss Mennonites, Swiss and German Mennonites. And it turns out that those guys, even though people don't think of Mennonites being associated with alcohol these days, back then they were some of the best brewers and distillers in Europe. And that includes some names and families that got into the business that I'm sure you know. Old Overholt, which is now made by Jim Beam, was started by Abraham Overholtzer. He was a part of a Mennonite family settled in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, where I live now, and moved out to Pittsburgh in 1800 to establish a grain mill. And it turns out a grain mill in Pittsburgh, Western frontier in 1800 was a bad business decision. So they started making whiskey in 1810. Um, the brand, which eventually became Michter's, and some of you may have seen them. They're now using an old branding they had back in the day from the Baumburgers. So the Baumburger family were another one of those Mennonite families. So, before Prohibition, just before Prohibition, there's something like 200 distilleries, licensed distilleries making whiskey in Pennsylvania. So we wanted to recall that history. So our 80% rye grain and 20% malt mash bill reflects that history. So we get our grain from a farm right up the road here in Bucks County. The Meese family is our supplier, and they've been on that land since 1716. They're an original William Penn land grant family, and we're very thrilled to have them as partners because they're very conscientious about growing very high quality rye for us. We use a 2-row malted barley. We don't use 6-row barley. We use 2-row brewer's malt, which we think brings a lot more flavor to our whiskey, particularly in our youngest expression, which you'll get a chance to taste in a little bit. So we have a pot still. It's a pot hybrid. It's a pot still with a side column, which we can deploy during the finishing run to clean up the transition from heads to hearts and from hearts to tail. So we get really clean white whiskey going into the barrels. Now we can dirty it up if we want, which we do sometimes when we run it out a little bit, depending on what barrels we're going into. But we're able to use that side column to dial in precisely what we want to go into the barrels. We're using almost all of our barrels come from a cooperage in Cuba, Missouri, McGinnis. They make excellent barrels. They've been doing it for a long time, and we really like the quality of the whiskey we get from their barrels. They're a big supplier to some of the big guys as well, but we managed to, because we were in 2011, we may have been one of the first handful of distillers actually making whiskey. Some of the brands, some of the quote craft brands have been around a little longer than we have, but most of those guys were sourcing. They weren't making. So we were actually making it, and getting a partnership with a cooperage like McGinnis early on has been really great for us because again, getting good rye, using really good malt, and using great barrels, we think those are important elements to making sure you end up with a good product in the end. What else what anything else? Am I missing something about him? So that kind of gives you a general gist of what we do. Again, we do rye whiskey. We do several different expressions. And are we ready to dive into the first of the expressions?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's taste it.
Okay.
We have 6 or 7 expressions in front of us. Do you have an order in mind of how you want us to line these up?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I want to start with the 90 proof, what we call our classic.
Okay.
That's the 90 proof one. Then we'll go to the 95 proof straight whiskey, which is a 4-year-old minimum straight whiskey, 95 proof green label.
Okay.
Then after that, I would go to the 100 proof bottle and bond, our 6-year-old bottle and bond, which we just released.
Okay.
Then the high proof single cask strength single barrel.
Okay.
Then we can back off a little bit and we'll hit the finished ones. We'll do a vermouth finish. That's the only whiskey that I know of finished in sweet vermouth barrels. And last but not least, we have a little fun with some maple casks that we make up with by putting maple syrup in barrels, taking it out, selling it or using it, and then putting whiskey back in again. And that we'll finish up with that. That's kind of the dessert, if you will. And okay, I forgot, we got the prime barrel there too. Geez, where do we want to fit that in? The prime barrel, maybe would do that between the bottle and bond and the single barrel.
Okay.
Because those are all the bottle and bond, the single barrel and the prime barrel are sort of kissing cousins. They're all from the same general time frame, about 6 years ago, and so they are similar, but it'd be interesting to sort of ferret out the differences between the three. or among the
Yeah.
three. Yeah, the prime. I don't even have the prime with me anymore because sometimes we sell something like this and we forget to keep bottles for ourselves. So I don't even have a bottle of that. So I don't. That's so you guys are more privileged than I am to be able to have that in front of you. That's an excellent blend. It's a blend of different barrels. So I'll hit that up when we get there.
Cool.
So the first one is this is our 90 proof um, classic rye. Now this is a very young whiskey, and it's one we get a lot of disrespect about this because people will say, "Oh, why don't you leave it in the barrel longer?" And it's you really why is it so young? It's only about a year old. We do blend a bit of 4-year-old whiskey in there as well, but it's primarily based on our younger whiskey. And so I'm curious to hear what your feedback is because a lot of people won't even try it because they'll look at the label and they see I have on the label 8 months, even though it's more like a year. But occasionally we pick out some younger barrels to throw in there because they bring a lot of like sort of bright fruitiness from the malt. Um, Again, we use a really high quality 2-row brewer's malt, and which we think really makes this a kind of a fruity, gives it that fruity side to it. Um, but it's not a lot of barrel. It's a bright, spicy, grain forward, a little fruity side from the malt. And this time of year, like when it's 90 degrees outside around here, and I go back on my back deck back there, I'll put this on the rocks because again, this is not 18-year-old Scotch. It's 1-year-old rye whiskey, and it's great on the rocks. It's great in a highball with ginger ale or ginger beer. It's great in a Manhattan. It's great in an old fashioned, and it's a good everyday drinker. And I think it. I mean, again, I'm the guy that makes it, and I will say I think it's very skillfully made. You don't get that sort of taint that you get in some younger whiskeys because of the way we deploy our side column. When we deploy that side column, we could take we do a really sharp heads cut, so you don't get any of that sort of solventy leakage into the hearts, and we tend to cut it a little sooner on the tail side, so you don't get any of that sort of hard funk. So this is really kind of the heart of the hearts. With I mean, one thing I didn't send to you, maybe I should have. I should have sent you out a bottle of our white. Um, we have bars up and down. If you guys have ever heard of, I'm sure some of you have. Um, the cocktail bar called Death and Company. Death and Company in New York actually has a cocktail built on our white rye on their menu because it really is very flavorful right off the still. So it's a young, fruity, spicy rye.
What's the MSRP on this?
Well, in the Pennsylvania, it's like 38, 39. In California, I don't recall off the top of my head, but we try to keep it, in the low 40s or under 40.
Right, thank you.
Oh, by the way, while I have everybody here, um, I'm gonna do a quick pitch for all of you who are listening. And I don't have the numbers in front of me there, but we need to, well, in California in particular, um, get the word out to your retailers and your bars and restaurants to don't forget about us. We haven't been out to California as much. We have somebody going out there next week to do some sales calls, but we need to get the retailers to get us back in places where we were before and aren't there anymore. So go to your favorite retailer, your favorite bar and restaurant, say you need to call Pacific Edge, who's our distributor, and get us back on the shelf. So if you don't ask for the order, you don't get the order. So that's my pitch to get you guys to shake the trees a little bit for us out there in California. It's a long way for us to keep up our appearances. So this is this one you'll find pretty much all of these. Yeah, all of these are carried by Pacific Edge. All the ones we're tasting today are carried by Pacific Edge. They have it. How well it's distributed into the retail and market is a different story. But so this is our young. Any comments? Any feedback? Are you surprised or are you disgusted or?
No, that's why I was asking the MSRP, because it's like, what's my expectation level for it? And for that level, it's great. I mean, it's what you're saying. If on its own, it's fine. I would prefer it on ice. I'm in a hotel room. I didn't have a chance to get ice, but it is what it is. But no, it's got the flavor. I could taste the white dog, and I could taste that it would be good with it. I've always liked all of your expressions, and I could definitely sort of taste the foundation of it, and it's the reason why I like your products. I dig it. And
Thanks.
I understand what it is, and for what it is. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I like
No,
both.
and that's again what one of the things that we've not tried to pretend that this is anything but what it is. Okay, so we keep it as an expression because it's relatively inexpensive for us to make, and we can turn it around quickly. And I frankly enjoy the hell out of it. I mean, this is my go-to, like on a hot day, that on the rocks with a little twist of orange peel on top. I'm fine. I mean, it's for me, it works. Again, I'm not sipping 18-year-old scotch. It's a, it's a, it's a young, bright whiskey that goes great on the rocks and great in cocktails. So now, having said that, having that young whiskey, now what we've done is we have and that is a mixture of 15 and 53 gallon barrels. Our green label 95 proof straight is all 53 gallon barrels. And in this case, a minimum of 4 years old. And right now we're averaging about 5 years on this year. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention it with the 90 proof classic is we use a technique, and we don't even give it a name, but we have these 6,000 liter tanks into which we empty our barrels. Those tanks do never empty. We try to keep them roughly half full. So, like when we bottled 2 days ago, we took about 500 liters out of it. We proofed it and bottled it. Now we're going to put more barrels back in on Monday to bring the level back up again. But there's still almost half a tank there. So that the barrels we empty into that tank on Monday are going to be blending with what we bottled this 2 days ago. So we keep a consistency. What we want you to do is when you buy that whiskey, and this is the case for our 90 proof and our 95, and to a certain degree is the vermouth as well. We're shooting for a consistency so that when you buy a bottle this month and you buy another bottle in 3 months, that you're going to get something go, oh yeah, that tastes like Dad's hat. No, we don't want to be all over the map. So that's how we maintain a consistency, is by keeping those tanks, those buffers in the tank, so that we're always keeping a consistent style. Now it has evolved over time, we think in the right direction, but we want it to be, we don't want you to be shocked when you buy a bottle of one of our brands and say, oh, this doesn't taste anything like I bought last time. Now, that's going to change when we get down the line a little bit with the bottle and bond and so forth, and I'll explain that in a little while. But in the meantime, I'm going to pour myself a little bit of the 95 proof green label straight. This retails, we've been trying to get this down and more competitive. In Pennsylvania, we've got this on the shelf at 49. So which means in California, it's who knows? Because I mean, some of these guys they wonder why they can't sell it. They mark it up to over 60, and so we try to get them to put it down into the low 50s, so that it's a little more reasonable and competitive. But so you're going to get a lot more barrel on this, and this was a fatter cut off the still to start with, but you're going to get a lot more of in that young barrel, in that young whiskey, you get caramel, but no vanilla. Here, you're going to get the caramel from the caramelized sugar in the barrel, plus you start to pick up some vanilla that comes from the longer period of time it sits in the bigger barrels. All right, any questions?
You can really smell the difference. I was really blown away by the amount of flavor you got in such a young whiskey, the first one with the classic.
Well, again, that is really when we did our work at Michigan State, they steered us in a direction of using a lot of big distillers use 6-row malt, 6-row barley malt, which is very high level of enzymes, which are desirable in the fermentation side, or in this mashing, in preparation for fermentation. We went with a 2-row brewer's malt, which brings a lot more flavor, something more similar to what you would make a single malt Scotch with. That plus we had Michigan State helped us choose. They had a microbiologist there who helped us choose the yeast that we use. And again, we pay a lot of attention to the rye, the grain. I mean, this past 3 weeks have been hell at the farm because, as well, you can't hear it out here, but we got. If I float away, you'll know why. We've been getting. I think we're getting like 5 inches of rain today. So, getting the rye harvested at exactly the right time, leaving it in the field until it's really ripe. We get really good ripe berries, and then dry enough so when it's harvested, it stores well. That's been like dodging bullets this year. So, and the family up there has done a great job, and they brought in a lot of really good rye this year. They just finished harvesting last week, which is a little bit late for rye. Usually it's mid-July, but it was been so rainy they had to wait until they got some better weather to harvest the rye this year. So we think that contributes to those young flavors that, but in this case, mature into really nice flavor.
So I popped on late, so I apologize profusely if you covered this early in, but your rye is unique to a lot of the other ryes, and I'm wondering if you were chasing a profile, if you were creating a profile, if you were trying to recreate something. And again, if it's something I missed, I'll watch the replay and I apologize. But I'm just wondering because this is along with the first one I'm tasting, there's a fruitiness to it that I really enjoy with the spicy rye. I get it's unique to the Pennsylvania rye style, and I'm just wondering what is that? Where is that from?
Well, it's partially from the fact that we wanted to sort of recreate the style as best we could, and that meant no corn. So many of the other all the Kentucky ryes have some corn, and the rye you get that originates in Indiana that so many people have, the 95.5 from Indiana, it has barely any malt in it. And I don't know this, but I suspect the malt they're using is 6-row malt, which means it doesn't have a lot of flavor. So we're trying to be more reminiscent of the old school style, and part of that comes from the fact that I can say, I mean, as a teenager and a young man, I'm a little, I don't know how old I look on screen, but I'm an old guy. So, we were still serving Sam Thompson rye in my grandpa's bar in the 70s. And that's what's in my mind's eye. And I don't know if you guys know the brands, but Sam Thompson was one of the last of the old school Pennsylvania ryes that was still being sold, made in Pennsylvania with the old mash bill, the 80/20 mash bill. And so that's what's in my mind's eye when we were doing this, and this is what kind of I was searching for. And my business partner John Cooper is a big whiskey guy. He's more analytical when it comes to the tasting side. For me, it's all about what hits my memory, emotional thing. I mean, this smells like, when I was a teenager, me and my brother had to clean the bar on weekends, and so going down in empty glasses and smelling those empty glasses, that's what I remember. I mean, those are the kind of things that stick in my mind. So it's, yeah, I keep going after it. Have I gotten there yet? No, because I've been privileged enough to people bring me bottles of Sam Thompson that they found in somebody's basement and stuff. We're not quite there, but I think we're in the right direction. I think we're stylistically consistent with that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what I was wondering if there was a recipe you're doing or a taste that you remember. So that's rad. Thank you.
Now, what's interesting, and I'm going to do just a little bit of a sideline here, is has anybody seen the new A Overholt yet? No?
The
Not Old Overholt.
No, the A overhaul, that's the different style bottle that's kind of a dark
Yeah,
brown.
it's a
Yeah, yeah,
square brown bottle.
yeah. I have a bottle.
Yeah. So Jim Beam, okay. Now this is an interesting story. Okay. Old Overholt, when it moved to Jim Beam in Kentucky, they added corn. So they changed the rolled recipe. Okay. So the team down there decided they wanted to reassociate its DNA with Pennsylvania, even though it's not made in Pennsylvania. If you look at the bottle, it's got a keystone on it, and they talk about a Monongahela mash and so forth. So I know the team down there because one of the guys on the team used to work for me. They've decided they want to bring back its roots, its Pennsylvania roots. So they changed for the A Overholt, the mash bill is the same as ours, 80% grain, 20% malt. So we're very flattered that they decided to get back in the game. In fact, I think some of the Pennsylvania guys are a little miffed, but frankly speaking, if Jim Beam's going to spend money educating people about the history of Pennsylvania whiskey, I'm fine because we're never going to compete with them head to head. But if they're going to educate the consumers about it, and if anybody's tasted, I'd be curious to hear what your feedback is. And I was privileged to be invited to the launch party at Beam. So I got to sit at what's called the kitchen table with Fred and Freddie No at the launch party, and which was pretty cool. And but I told them, I said, having tasted it, I think they went a little safe. It's a very nice product. I think it's kind of safe. I think they're shooting with, they want to be able to hit a broad audience, so I think they kept it pretty safe. But it's delicious. I mean, Jim Beam knows how to make whiskey, obviously, but it's the same mash bill as ours. Now, I didn't ask him what kind of malt they're using. I did ask him, but I didn't get a straight answer. But that's one difference. Plus, they're making theirs on a column still. It's not on. They're not. It's not pot still distilled. So anyway, Pennsylvania whiskey is getting some notoriety. We like to think we had something to do with that. And if you ever get a chance, I challenge a side by side of this because this is all 4 to 6 years old. The A Overhold is 4 years old. This is $10 more a bottle. Theirs is 40. This is 50. I think this is worth 25-30% more, in my humble opinion. But I'd be curious to see if anyone else shares that. Be happy to send me an email and let me know what you think.
No, because I have the overhaul 10 and the overhaul 114 and the AO, and I agree. This destroys the AO. The 114 I actually like what it is, and the 10
and those are different products. Those are the old mash bills. They have corn in them, and they're great products. But
the AO, you're right. This destroys by a lot. It's a fine product, but I have a bottle. I'll never buy another one. Not because I think it's bad, but I didn't want to chase it. This destroys it by a lot.
It's pretty tame. It's pretty tame. Okay, next we're going to do the bottle and bond. So now, before I mentioned, and by the way, just to tweak the guys at Jim Beam, you guys probably can't see it, but up on the top here, I put Monongahela mash on there like they did on the A Overholt bottle. So what I mentioned before, in our classic 90 and our straight 95, we strive to be a certain kind of stylistically consistent, right? What we do every year for our bottle and bond is that we look for barrels. We look for a group of barrels that we can segregate that represent a slightly different flavor profile than what you get from because in the straight 95, we're trying for really good balance. So these the bottle and bond, we try to find a group of barrels that are distinctive in some way. So in 2019, it was really spicy. We had a bunch of barrels that were it was actually, that rye was from 2004. The grain was from 2014, and it was from a different farm than we usually use. It was crazy spicy. So if you find a 2019 ball and bond, and there's still a few out there, I think Sealbuck might have a couple left. It's very spicy, like red cherry pepper spicy. 2020, we went with Pretty. It was very floral. 2021 was Black Forest Cake, chocolate and cherries. 2022 was walk through my grandmother's apple orchard, very ripe kind of apples on the grounds kind of a thing. 2023 we didn't do because we didn't find a barrels that we thought were distinctive enough. And 2024 is 6-year-old. This was all distilled in the first quarter of 2018. Bottled a couple of now a month under a little bit more than a month ago or so. And this one for any if anybody's from the East Coast and you know what a butterscotch crimpet is. The butterscotch crimpet is a tasty cake. It's a snack cake made by a company in Philadelphia that's like this really powerful butterscotch. And this for me just screams butterscotch. So it's like I call it it's a butterscotch crimpet on steroids. And right now, if I'm sipping this is my go-to right now. It's really nice. So we skipped a year, but we try to pick a distinctive group of barrels, and we have in the past. This year we didn't do it, but have in the past we invite people in. We invited a whiskey club from at the Red Stag up in Bethlehem. They brought a bus of like 20 people down, and they helped us screen barrels one year. We had Lou Bryson, who's written a couple of books, local guy over here, if you know Lou Bryson or not. But he came in one year. He picked out he helped us pick out the cherries and chocolate in 2021. During COVID, so we had to segregate ourselves around the distillery to do it. So that's our bottle and bond, 100 proof, and all barrels from the first quarter of 2018. So we bottled it at just that over 6 years. Any feedback on this one? Does anybody else get the butterscotch that I'm getting or no? I mean, am I just imagining that?
Literally, if you like distill the coating around the popcorn of a Cracker Jack, that's what this is. Like that, like same like sugary, buttery. It's delicious in that way, and not the corn way inside, but like that, yeah, that like candy sweet. It's fantastic.
I gotta. So on the last one, the one that was aged longer, I got more of a buttery than the bottled and bond. What creates that?
It's time and barrel, and it might have been those were first quarter. That also is the rye we're using there is a little drier, but it's mostly just selecting barrels that have aged in a different part of the warehouse.
Oh, really? The actual environment of the warehouse, it plays an effect on it along with the
Sure.
aging on the barrel. Oh, very cool.
Sure.
Yep. Also, just a heads up, the blur effect that you guys got going on over there, it's blurring out the bottles when you show it. So if you want to shut it off,
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me see.
no big deal if not. You just got to put it right in front of your face for us to see it.
Okay, I'll try to do that because I don't want to do it. If I click on the wrong thing right now, you're liable to lose me. So I'm not going to.
It's
So yeah, let me do that again. This is the
Back up.
back up. No, doesn't like that at all, does it?
There you go. It works there.
So that's the ball and bond. Right for we sampled this in California. So if you want this, you got to get somebody to bug Pacific Edge to buy some. So
Delicious. It's fabulous.
great. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I
this is
really
my
enjoyed
go-to
this one. I get a lot of I was peppercorn and cocoa is what I get on this one.
Oh yeah. Well, good. Yeah, I like the cocoa. I think the cocoa, yeah, cocoa on the finish for sure. Yeah, see, this is I'm drinking a lot of this these days. So
Reminds me of a spice cake. We used to get the spice cake there in Pittsburgh. and I can't remember the name of the bakery that did them. But I get that. Just take off the icing and it's the cake.
okay. Yeah, there you go. So that's the ball and bond. And like I said, we aim to be a little different than the previous expressions. And remember, all these ones you're tasting, it's the same mash bill. And sometimes, we will play with how it comes off the still. And obviously the barrels are, different. And, but it's the mash bills are all the same. It's only a question of how they're aged and a bit on how they're distilled. Now the next one, I'll see if I can do it in front of my face if that works. Oh, there we go. This is a single barrel. Now, we do single barrels for retailers. We've done them in the past for Bevmo out there. We've done them for Total Wine. We do them for smaller retailers on the East Coast. We do them for some restaurants around the area as well. This one is the one we do for ourselves. We only sell these bottles in Pennsylvania. Either in Pennsylvania, you can buy, if you live in Pennsylvania, you can buy from our online store. And we sell them in our distillery and in our tasting room. We have a satellite tasting room down by the waterfront. So now this barrel was 1 month younger than the barrels that were chosen for the bottle and bond. So it's kind of it's a really a close cousin to
Sorry,
the
is this the
bottle and bond.
founder? Is this the founders or the prime? Which are we doing first?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I skipped the prime.
Okay,
Um,
all good. Just making sure we're on the same page. I apologize.
let's just do the prime. We'll do the prime. Okay.
I
So
apologize.
yeah, I'm sorry. Because well, you know what? I'll finish my ball and bond while you guys taste your prime. There's a guy in I don't know who I guess you Tony, you must know who that guy is, right? The guy who sells the prime bottles. Is that you who contributed the prime bottle?
That was John.
It was John.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a company called Prime. I just checked. They actually still have it. Prime Barrel.
Okay. So they
Oh, yeah, I know them.
yeah, they came down to taste at our distillery and they brought a few people down, and during the tasting they couldn't agree on which of the barrels they liked. So we actually blended 3 of them together, and that's what that became. And we put their special label on it for them, and that's being sold primarily to retailers in New York, but also they have an online club in New York as well. And but I forgot to keep a bottle at the distillery, so I don't even have any. So, but that's an excellent blend. And I don't remember what the dates on that are.
This is 64%. 130.
Yeah.
This
Yeah, Prime was 64.5 and Founders was 63.5.
This is I mean phenomenal. Like I mean I taste it. I am my lips are burning in a great way at the after end, but this is fantastic.
Those are good barrels. We made a lot of really good whiskey in 2018, 2019 that it's all coming of age right now. And people keep asking me, are you going to let your whiskey get older and older and older? But I think right now, the 4 to 6 year old window is really great for our whiskey. We have a 10-year-old barrel. We have an 11-year-old barrel that we're going to put out just for almost like a novelty. It's really good, but I don't think it's as good as what you're drinking now, even though it's older.
It's interesting. It's for those of us doing the virtual tastings for a while since COVID. It's been 4 years, whatever. We've done a bunch, and there's a particular distillery out there that does an experiment of aging the same MGP bourbon versus rye, and it's interesting how much better rye can be young versus bourbon. And then after a certain point, just bourbon overtakes rye. And I haven't yet, I'll just confess, really ventured into older ryes besides like a Whistle Pig or whatever that's out there. But to your point, like a 3 to 5 year old bourbon, you could almost poo-poo at or wish it could like age a little bit more. But a 3, 5, 6 year old rye could just be incredible and like almost like perfect and less low. Done. Don't mess with it at all. And this is a great example of that. Just at that, it's crazy how much better a rye could be young than a bourbon could be young. It's interesting.
That seems to be the general opinion. I mean, I have I mentioned this company before, Sam Thompson Rye, which was they were around from the 1850s, and they finally went out of business as a brand in the 70s. And if you look at this, I mean, and I have a bottle that somebody brought me, which is now empty, but we I don't keep my bottles, I drink them. And you look at the back, it's 4 years old. I mean, and and Sam Thompson is about it. I mean, that's my holy grail. I mean, if I could make Sam Thompson, it was always 4 years old. Now that changed a bit around Prohibition, as you know, because there was a lot of older whiskey came out just after Prohibition because those barrels were sitting around and they weren't being tapped. You know, they were just sitting in warehouses. But for the most part, 4 years for me is 4 to 6 years old is a pretty good sweet spot for rye. I've had, written back in a while ago. They had a Rittenhouse 23, which my sister bought me for Christmas, and I just thought it was too much barrel on it. It was expensive stuff, but I think this 4 to 6 years old is a pretty good sweet spot. So
I assume, not to
I'm
be
sorry.
weird, I assume you guys are all Pennsylvania. So you age in Pennsylvania, everything's in Pennsylvania. I'm just thinking about like Canadian rye versus American bourbon, how much heat might influence a barrel. I mean, you guys are pretty far north, so you get super
We
cold.
have
Yeah.
we have two areas of our building where we age. We have we're in an old textile mill, and most of the barrels are up on the fifth floor. It's an old mill that was built in the 1890s. It was an early exercise in reinforced concrete, so the walls are massive, and so the temperature, even on the hottest days, up there in the fifth floor, never gets too hot, but in the wintertime, it never gets too cold either, which is kind of the Pennsylvania tradition. If you look at the old literature, Pennsylvania mostly aged their whiskey in steam heated warehouses. So it doesn't mean they were steam heated to 90 degrees, but they were always kept at a fairly warm temperature, which is kind of what we do. We have a few barrels in some racks downstairs that sit in the distillery itself, which see a lot more heat in the summer because it's right next to the boiler almost. And those can be different, but those usually end up being blended in into our tank. Once in a while, we'll find a single barrel down there, but it all depends on what we like. So the prime barrel, you said you liked it pretty well, huh? We've heard nothing but good things about it. So, we're ready to move on to the Founders single barrel. So the Founders single barrel, we call it our Founder series. Those are single barrels that we select at the site to be sold there. This is the 7th one we've picked. We didn't do it for a while, and the guy who works with me, or the guy who does most of the distilling now, Travis, one day said, "Why don't we do them for ourselves?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a great idea." So we started doing them ourselves, and so again, we look for something a bit distinctive, and in this case, this is really a kissing cousin to the Ball and Bond. It's a month later. This is it's a April of 2018. So it's a couple days short of 6 years old. And so instead of being the other ones, I characterize them as kind of butterscotchy. This for me is like spun sugar, creme brulee almost. Is what I get from this one. It's high proof, but it doesn't drink high proof.
But just to double down on what we're talking about, so so for your own selection of what represents you best at 63%, you're doing a 5-year-old.
It's almost 6.
That's incredible. Like, I'm not trying to be weird. That's awesome.
Yeah. This
so
one's
good.
like a week short of 6 years old.
There's no like, oh, I wish I was a little, oh, talk to me in 3 years and I'll see if I like this. No, I mean, there's no brassy notes to it. There's no youth notes to it. It's fantastic.
Thanks. I mean, that's what we think. I mean, because we get a lot of, I do a lot of tasting events and things, and people are saying like, "Don't you have anything that's older?" And I'm like, "No, this is how I like it." And at the end of the day, to our detriment or to our peril, John and I put stuff out that we like, and that's what we do. Any other questions before we move on to the finishing stuff? No? All right. So now we have, we started off doing, actually, our first finished idea was a port finish, which is pretty classic. And we still make a port finish. I didn't share it with you. It's very good. And we actually get our barrels from a California winery called Quaddy Wineries. And Quaddy makes a port style wine, even though ours says port. The TTB might take an issue because it's not really port. It's a port style wine that they make at Quaddy. That because they can't call it port, they call it starboard. So it's their starboard port style wine. The one we have in front of us is their sweet vermouth. So to my knowledge, right now, even though the Yippee-Ki-Yay guys used to do it, but now I think we're the only people doing whiskey finished in sweet vermouth barrels. So this is the Quaddy Wineries Via Vermouth. And we take whiskey that's been aged in new oak first, and we put it in barrels that have had sweet vermouth in them and let it sit there for anywhere between 6 to 9 months. It says 3 months on the label, but it's usually 6 to 9 months. So this is this thing.
I'm sorry, I missed that. How much originally is it? What's the starting?
What do you mean?
It starts a certain, and then you finish. Then you.
Oh no, it starts off as it's aged in new oak first.
For how long? Sorry, that's right.
We blend the 4 and 1 year old together, and that just becomes a matter of what we like, because that's when it's your place, you get to pick. So, well, I got a good logo off of that. So this is vermouth can be very polarizing because on the nose it smells like Christmas cookies, but on the palate you still get some of that sort of botanical, not quite bitter, but sort of the botanical finish on it, off the herbs and in the vermouth itself. But it's a beautiful product, and it's absolutely unique.
No, it's like a finished cocktail in a bottle. It's really, I like that.
Almost, yeah, almost. And again, we don't let the vermouth overtake the whiskey. One of the ways we manage that is when sometimes the barrels are so what we call juicy that we put the whiskey in there, where the whiskey comes out and there's too much vermouth. So we have a smaller tank that we'll put that into, and we'll fill the barrel again, and then blend those two together. Because we don't want it to be vermouth first and then whiskey second. We want it to be whiskey first and vermouth second. So yeah, I haven't had this in a while. It's really pretty good.
Reminds me of the there's a guy who's been in this group for a while, Matt Saki, who's not here tonight, but he was in this group for a long time, who's great palate, great collection, and he's a huge proponent of your brand. And he'd always say, like, I see Dad's Hat expression, I just trust it and buy it. And this is kind of a reminder of why, because you're like, vermouth finished rye? What do you like? No, what? And then you try it, and you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, all right.
Again, this is the kind of thing that we have a couple of cocktails we make with it, but for me, this thing here, I'll put it over one big ice cube with an orange rind twist on top, and express some orange peel on there. It's great.
Yeah, for me, it's a cocktail in itself.
Yeah. Yep. So, last but not least, we have this we started doing kind of as a novelty, but it's really become very popular in a few states. we had one of the we have a company who sells our barrels for us, and it's a homebrew store. It's a big homebrew store here in the Philadelphia area, and they got the idea of taking barrels that have had whiskey in them, and putting maple syrup in the barrels, and then taking the maple syrup out and selling it. So, which was becoming very successful. So we said, hey, can we get those barrels back? So now we get barrels. We actually do it ourselves too now. We take a barrel that had whiskey in it, take the whiskey out, we put maple syrup in, let the maple syrup sit there for 3 to 6 months. We take the maple syrup out, and then we put aged whiskey back in again. The idea here is that, once again, we want the whiskey first. We don't want this to be Knob Creek because it's too mapley. So it's very subtle effect of the maple. And this maple comes from a farm right in Pennsylvania, by the way.
As we get ready to enjoy this maple cast Dad's Hat Rye, I invite everyone to turn on their cameras. We're going to do our a quick little screenshot of everyone toasting to you, Herman. Thank you so much for being here tonight and
Great.
sharing this wonderful spirit with us, and sharing the story. So give Luke and Devin and Jordan a chance to come back. Drag my feet a little bit. There we go. Come on, Jason. I know you're there. You can hear me. You can feel the disturbance in the force. But all that said, thank you so much for spending the evening with us. We really appreciate it. I mean, every single one. As Jordan has said, I think he speaks for all of us. There wasn't a bad expression in the bunch. These have been absolutely delicious, and thank you for making them, and thank you for sharing them with us. And we'll be sure to ask our retailer to bring in a few bottles.
Yeah, please. I gotta get the sales pitch in there. So
Right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your support, and it's fun time. It's always fun talking about what we do.
Awesome.
So I'm actually in Oregon. You have to, it looks like there's not much available in Oregon for you guys. Is that something you're planning on changing at some point, hopefully, or? I think these are amazing.
We are in part of the special order program.
Okay.
And I've been neglectful. I'm a few months behind on my orders for Oregon.
Okay.
Because they place orders, I place 2 stacks at a time.
Oh, okay.
So I wait until we get a few so I can actually put a pallet together and keep the shipping costs.
Okay, well, I did see the classics available. That's the only one available, but definitely please send some more out here because I'll be happy to buy it. Enjoy it. Thank you.
The classic is the only one that's available in Oregon.
Okay.
You know, you're not the only one. You're not the only one in Oregon. I am as well.
Okay. And when I was in Pennsylvania last year, and every bar I went to, I tried looking for Dad's Hat. Nobody had it. I was quite surprised by that. It was Erie, Pennsylvania, so not near where you guys are, but still.
That's the other end of the world.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, thank you.
Cheers, everybody. Wow. Any other last minute questions?
We do have the poll. I'm curious how people feel about all these. I don't know if it's a fair question to ask all of these in the same poll, but let's see where people rate it. What's your favorite expression of the night?
As mapley as I thought.
Yeah, what do you think, Devin? Not as mapley? Are you disappointed by that, or
no, out of California, I really like these. I'm definitely going to ask question, but I really liked that the nose on that 4-year, the second one, and I really loved the prime. I loved the prime.
Vadim, did we do Dad's Hat early in COVID?
Yes.
I'm reminded, man.
2020.
The maples reminded me of it because I was like, "Fuck that, it's gonna be bad." This is really well balanced. Yeah, no.
Maples reminding you of COVID? What is it doing?
Yeah, no, I can't smell anything or taste anything. But I'm gonna get bronze in the 400 meter and the 200 meters. So we'll see how it goes. No, I was just saying me liking the maple reminded me that we tasted this before. So I'm stoked to do it again.
The
I don't
COVID
know
good
if
old
you-
days.
I don't know if
This
you, I
maple
don't,
was the one I was most afraid to try, just because it said maple. Because I don't want syrup, I want whiskey. And this is whiskey.
That's our objective.
Herman,
Thank
I
you,
don't know
Larry.
if you mentioned it, I might have missed it at the beginning, but why Dad's hat?
Oh, it's a good question. If you look, I gotta kill my screen here, but I have, there's a rack back there with about a dozen hats that are my dad's old hats. And I wear my dad's old fedoras. And when we were doing our branding, the company's name is Mountain Laurel Spirits. And we started talking to the company doing our marketing, and they noticed I wore those hats. And they thought that was besides the backstory with the bar and all that stuff like that, more importantly, having the fedora on the label is a way to communicate the nostalgia we want to associate with the brand, because we were bringing a style of whiskey back from the past. Because we were the first people to make whiskey in Pennsylvania again since Michter's left in the 80s. So we were kind of bringing something back from the past, fedoras. And the other thing is fedora, those old hats is a kind of a universal language to communicate nostalgia for somebody. It might be a favorite uncle. Somebody might be, they like Mad Men. Somebody likes Humphrey Bogart movies. But in every case, it brings back that sort of nostalgic feelings.
Appreciate that. I have a really good friend who's really into fedoras. He's a sax player, super cool old school sax player, and he's got the fedoras all the time. So power to the fedora.
This hat is a Stetson from the 1960s that I had fixed up. That was my dad's, and a lot of people don't know, but Stetsons were made in Philadelphia until 1969. So Stetson's an old Philadelphia brand, and this is a 1960s vintage Stetson right there. So
I was in New Mexico and I walked into a hat store just for shits and giggles. I asked how much a custom hat is. I think they said $700 to $1,200.
oh yeah.
I was blown away. I was like, what?
Yeah, Jane, it's, I was lucky. Finding a place that can block hats and clean hats and so forth is hard to find. It turns out I went on the internet and I found there's a woman who lives about 20 minutes from my house, and she has in her garage all this old equipment from a hattery that or a miller that she found, and it looks like a steampunk convention. I mean, it's like these old 1930s, like you lower things down and steam going everywhere and everything. And she did a great job. That hat was in such bad shape, and it's almost like brand new now. So yeah, finding a place that can block hats and clean them properly is really hard to. It's hard, sometimes hard, but fortunately, there's a couple in Philly and a couple in New York, but there are not many around anymore.
That's super cool. Yeah, my brother has one of my grandpa's hats and my great uncle's. So they were all from like the 40s, 50s. He doesn't wear them that much. He just has them on the wall. There you go, Jim.
I had to get mine.
There you go. Yeah, you got to find the right place. I mean, where are you located, Jane? You're in California?
Yeah, I'm in LA.
In LA. So I don't. There's got to be a place in LA. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. No, I know of at least. Well, I used to know of at least 3 places, because I've had to get hats fixed for shows that I've worked on. And there's one not too far from me that still does blocking. You just have to let them know ahead of time because they don't always have somebody around that knows how to run the equipment.
Right. It's an old art, but it's great. It's great. And again, I don't have any hair, so I started wearing them because I used to, before I actually did this, I was I had a job in in the real world, and I used to travel in Europe a lot. And walking around in Europe, you know, keeping the rain off your head and the rain off your glasses, fedoras are perfect. I mean, you know, they're beaver felt. They stand up and they look cool too. So, you know, I enjoy wearing them, and it's so that's part of the DNA of the brand.
I really like your story, and everyone in the group will tell you that I am not a rye fan. I don't like the grain. It's not the whiskey, it's the grain itself. I don't like rye bread. I don't like rye anything. I actually, honestly, the vermouth cask, I think I would buy.
Okay, cool.
So that's like really super cool. I love that. It's really awesome stuff.
Thank you. Thanks.
I first tried Dad's Hat, I think around COVID, or it must have been just before, because I had it as it was like a Boilermaker special at a bar, and I'd never seen it before, so I figured I'd try it. And then the next day I went into the beverage warehouse in Mar Vista, if anybody knows, and I found it and I bought a bottle. It was just so unique and special, and just very, very good. One of my favorites for sure.
Well, you know, in Philadelphia, for some reason, we have in Pittsburgh, it was a shot and a beer. You know, it was a Boilermaker or a shot and a beer. In Philadelphia, they're called citywides. So if you're in Philadelphia, you ask for a citywide, it's a shot and a beer. I don't know why, but it started in a dive bar in Philly. It was a $5 for a can of Pabst Blue Ribbon and a shot of Jim Beam. And now it's become sort of the ubiquitous name for a shot and a beer. So actually what we've done, there's a guy, and I mentioned earlier, this guy Lou Bryson, who's written some great books both on beer and whiskey. I had him come down, and he curates on our menu the Lou Bryson citywide selection. So we have 4 different beers matched with 4 different whiskeys, shots and beer selections in our tasting room. So if you ever get out to Philadelphia, ask for a citywide, that's what you get, a shot and a beer.
Good to know.
Next
I
time.
always love flying through Pittsburgh Airport and well, back then the U.S. Airway Lounge, and sitting there with an IC light and a shot.
Well, back in the old days, in my grandpa's in my dad's tavern, we had a mostly on tap. We had Stoney's beer, which is a local Jones Brewing Company, but we had guys would order bottles of Iron City and shots of the worst whiskey in the world, which is Imperial. And they would ask for an imp and an iron, Imperial and Iron City. Oof, nasty.
I was in the service with Stoney's grandson, the owner.
Yeah, Stoney Jones.
Yeah, and whenever he would come, we were stationed in Charleston, South Carolina.
Well, you know who his sister was?
Huh?
You know who his sister was?
No.
Shirley Jones.
Really?
Partridge Family, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
okay.
He never told you his sister was Shirley Jones?
No. Well, because he would just come back from going home on leave with a car full of Stonies to bring back to Charleston for us all to drink. We'd have big dorm parties.
Well, my grandpap and my dad used to run after-hour card games at the bar, and Stoney Jones and his son used to play. So my sister has a hand-me-down.
Really like it.
What's that? I'm sorry, Jim.
Oh, I like your stuff.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, my sister has a diamond dinner ring that my father won in a card game from Stoney Jones's son. Because he used to run on weekends, 2:00 in the morning till 6, illegal gambling. So that was it.
My great grandfather had a bar in Wall, Pennsylvania.
I know where that is.
And same thing, late night card games and all that. And my mom told stories about him having the deed to the house on the table.
Well, normally my dad was smart enough to collect the house money and not gamble too much, but that was a smart play.
Yeah.
Any other East Coast folks, at least in history anyway? No.
All right. Well, so we did our poll, and I think
Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
there you go.
Yeah, I'm from Washington County.
Washington.
Yes.
Washington.
Well, we were just talking about this the other day. What's one of the most famous quotations from a film that evokes the Warsh thing? Do you ever see The Great Escape?
Oh yeah.
And Charles Bronson, who's from Washington County, he's standing there in the shower. He goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, I'm having a wash." So, because Charles Bronson was from Washington, he was, I think, from actually Fayette County, I think.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And Charles Bronson said he grew up so tough because he was the poor Polish coal mining family, and he had to wear his sister's hand-me-downs. He said that's how he got so tough. But next time you watch The Great Escape, Charles Bronson has a wicked southwestern Pennsylvania accent. He goes, "What are you doing?" "I'm having a wash." Good stuff. It's great stuff.
Herman, we've tasted all the expressions, and everyone has voted for their favorite expression of the night.
Okay.
What do you think, just a guess, was the favorite expression tonight?
Ball and bond.
All right, I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results. All right. And unsurprisingly, it was actually very close. Bottle and Bond came in second.
Wow. The Prime and Founders cast tied for first.
Yeah, so cast strength, both of the cast strength barrels were first place, but then Maple and Bottled and Bond took second place, which is pretty great. And Vermouth brought up the rear. That's amazing.
Wow. No votes for the 4-year-old. Oh well.
I guess compared to the Bottled and Bond and the Maple.
Yeah, I know. Our Green Label Straight is really good whiskey. We call it our unwanted stepchild. It's such good whiskey, but it doesn't get much respect. And I don't know. But
I mean, right? If you have the whole collection in front of you,
yeah.
It's your favorite.
I know. But no, look. Hey, right now I'm drinking the Ball and Bond. That's my nighttime go-to, right? Because I think it's delicious. And the Founder's Cask is great too, obviously, but it's a little high proof for every night, every day drinking. But
I agree. It was a little hot for me, but the one that really, I mean, they were all delicious, but the Maple Cask really blew me away of how much I liked it, where I don't normally like essentially flavored.
yeah, we just did that. We just did the transfer today. We moved a bunch of barrels. We emptied the maple syrup out, and we put aged whiskey in. So
you said you sell the maple syrup by itself as well?
We used to, but the people who bottled it for us told us to piss off, because when you put the maple syrup in the barrels, it comes out, it's got a bunch of black char in it.
Yeah.
So you got to filter it out, and filtering maple syrup is not much fun.
I can imagine.
So we use it we have certain cocktails where we use it, where we can filter it ourselves. And we actually have a couple of restaurants that serve it in a little cup in their charcuterie platters.
Nice.
And they sort of they boast about the little char in there, because they say, "Hey, this came right out of a barrel," So, which you can do face to face, but if it's in a bottle on a shelf in a store, it's got to be filtered. And the guy who was doing the bottling for us told us to piss off because it was just too much of a mess.
We'll take a couple of mason jars of just the unfiltered stuff, please.
I have some at home. I steal some for home. So
yeah, just for our pancakes.
The unfortunate thing is no one on this group could tell us if someone like Willy Wonka would enjoy a cask strength maple whiskey, just like a candy whiskey, like a Father's Fedora. There's no one here who loves Willy Wonka and high proof whiskey. I'm just.
Too bad. It's just really too bad.
I was here. I wish he was here.
Never heard
No,
of him.
I disagree. I'm there. I love them both. So there you
Well,
go.
believe it or not, I relented after being pestered by a guy in Kentucky. I did one single barrel cast strength maple finish for a whiskey club in Kentucky.
There's no one on this group who would like that. I wish I knew someone who's muted or in black right now who doesn't express himself, would like a
Yum.
maple, but I mean, if there was, we would mention him, but I'm not going to mention him. So I'm just saying it's too bad.
Yeah. I bet he would love it.
There you go.
I'll bet his grandfather, who was on the Pennsylvania state legislature and was the great grandfather, was a Keystone cop in Pennsylvania, would love it too.
Hey, my father was a Pennsylvania legislator.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my grandfather. Well, actually, we probably are around the same age. So, yeah.
I heard Father's Fedora likes 80 proof.
80 proof or 80
proof tequila finished.
80 ABV.
And hates Willy Wonka. So go ahead.
I will say, Herman, props to you for not releasing anything at 80 proof. That's,
Yeah.
No, we never did that. We select our proofs based on taste test. We line them up, and again, John and I taste and we sell what we like.
I love that. This is clearly a brand of passion. It's not, you're not in it to make it every barrel last longer and bring in the most bucks. You're clearly doing something that you love, and we can taste it.
We do, but we do need to improve our sales. So please get out and help, because putting up whiskey for 5 and 6 years is cash.
Yeah.
So I'm always I have to. One of the things that John and I have not done well, we've not been as unabashedly commercially oriented as we should be, because I mean, I was listening to a comedian online the other day, and these two comedians, they're buying whiskey from Indiana, and they have a brand in New York, and it's like, really? I mean, it's so you're competing against all these different people who are doing crazy stuff, and so we have to get more aggressive when it comes to the sales and marketing side. So that's why I did my pitch earlier on. Tell your retailers and bars and restaurants, get us in. We're in some really great cocktails. There's a place in San Francisco. And I'm going to forget the name of it, because the name of the restaurant means the layer of the ocean where there's no light, and so if anybody knows what that means, we're on the cocktail list there. We're on the cocktail list at Death and Company. So we're very well regarded by folks in the business and people who know whiskey. We just got to do a better job getting the word out.
Well, we'll do our best to help.
Appreciate that.
We also want to say thank you to you for supplying us with some cool swag to give away. Since that pandemic, it's been kind of hard to get brands to provide us with some stuff. So really appreciate you sending a few things my way. A couple of shirts. One got claimed by me. I gave one to John. But we do have some hats and some glasses. If you follow Dad's Hat on Instagram, you'll see these hats featured, or these glasses featured all the time with the Dad's Hat logo on them. So we got 5 of these.
I like these better than Glencairn's, by the way.
Yeah, you do? You like these? What are these called? These are
I don't know. It's some company in Indiana, but the opening is just big enough for me to get my nose in when I drink from them. So it's a little bigger than Glencairn's, and they're less expensive, and they're made in the U.S. And I think they're attractive. I like them.
Yeah, they're sturdier for sure. So we got 5 of these Kinsey glasses. We got 4 of these awesome Dad's Hat hats. Say that 10 times fast. Dad's hat.
And what about the little kits?
And an aged in ore kit that includes. This is the coolest thing ever. I'm already using mine. as some of you know, these, and I know everybody wants one. It's got the 4 sample bottles inside, a little Sharpie. I know a few people that I've mentioned this to said they already got one, but it's got the 4 bottles inside. They are TSA compliant, and these are awesome. You can show off that you're a big Dad's Hat fan while you're
Absolutely.
traveling. So these are
Ben,
fantastic.
Awesome.
Ben,
This is thank you so much. I know exactly. I know these for sure. I mean, none of this stuff is cheap, but these are definitely a pricey item. So thank you so much. So we'll just raffle it off, and you got to be present to win. So we'll do it nice and simple. Normally, I leave the grand prize for last, and then everybody's sad if they get it in the beginning. But I think what I'll do today is I'll make it nice and simple. We'll roll your name, or we'll. Okay, I can't get this in the box. All right, I'll do it later. I'll do the randomizer wheel as always. First person to come up, and if you're here, you get to claim what you want. You want the hat, you want the glass, you want the kit, and then we'll just go down the list. And then it's your responsibility to remind me to get it to you. Cool? Cool. All right. Let me share
Cool.
my screen.
we're still recording. Is that cool?
Yep.
Cool.
I think it'll be fine. This is how I'll remember. Should I stop the recording? And what do you guys think? Your names are going to be on it.
No,
Doesn't
keep
matter.
it going.
Just make sure we're on the same page.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for I appreciate the heads up. I think I'm going to start posting these on YouTube publicly, and then maybe we'll get some following and whatnot. All right, let's hit start. I'm going to shuffle these. Make sure your name's on the list. Let me sort it. It's alphabetical. If you're not on the list, you tell me now. 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm going to hit shuffle. And then I'm going to spin it. Anyone missing? No? We're good.
I want to be on another time, but I'm there. Can I be on 2 or 3 more times?
Yes, you can. You can only win once.
Oh, that
Called
sounds
it.
like the fix was in. I don't know about that.
All right, Jordan, what are you taking? You got to unmute yourself.
I would like a travel kit, please, sir.
There you go.
Mine.
Nice. Congratulations.
Oh, damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, and you travel a shitload, so it's perfect. Good
That's
hand.
perfect.
All right. And you know the only rule is one of those bottles always has to be full of Dad's Hat. That's the only way it works.
Done. I will do
All
it.
right. Perfect.
Absolutely.
All right. We got a ton of stuff, so we'll go through.
If only you actually traveled, Jordan, right?
Every once in a while, I'll leave the house.
With your sushi kit.
All right, Carrie, I saw you earlier. You're on here.
I'm on here.
Hat or glass?
I'll take a hat.
Perfect. I'm actually
Okay.
taking notes, but put it in the notes section next time you sign up, and I'll make sure to get it to you.
Okay.
All right. Congratulations.
This is exciting.
Right? That's why we do this. It's so much fun. All right. I know I saw him earlier.
Does Ian play a flute?
Yeah, no kidding.
Sorry.
Yes,
I'm
I
sure you
do.
I'm sure you get that a lot. Sorry.
All right, what are you getting? Ian? Hat or glass?
Every time that
I'll
was
do a
mentioned.
glass.
All right, got him.
For those of
Jared,
us
you
old
wanted
enough
the
to
glass
remember.
too, right? Or the hat? I think I put your name in the wrong spot.
Hat, please.
Hat. All right, gotcha. I have all these notes and then they're wrong, so that's fun. All right.
I got you.
Thank you. I got backup admin support. I love that. Did I spin it? It spun it. All right. All right. Congratulations, buddy.
Glass, please. Yeah, thank you, glass.
Glass. All right. Gotcha. All right. Gotcha. Put it in the notes section for the next tasting you sign up, and then I'll remember to put it in there. All right. Wes,
Is there a glass left?
there is, and it's yours.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Good choice, Wes.
Yeah. You don't see a lot of Kinsey glasses. They're cool.
I like them.
Oh,
Oh, That's a familiar name.
Oh yeah.
Glass or hat?
I'll do hat.
I know you're a hat guy. All right. I was like, I don't even need to ask for that one. These hats are cool. They're like what is the style called? It's the tattered.
No, it's a trucker hat.
Yeah, the trucker hat, but it's like beat up a little bit.
It's distressed.
Distressed, that's right. May your life never be distressed. Let your hat be distressed. Tony, I think I saw you earlier. You still on here?
Yeah, Tony.
All right, what did you want? Hat or glass? You gotta unmute yourself. Can't hear you. Glass, got him. All right.
Glass. Yep.
Got it. All right, remove and spin. Are you all on the edge of your seats? Are you having fun?
I'm having a blast.
There you go.
Of course.
All right, I think we got one glass and two hats. All right, Mr. Foley, hat or glass?
I'll take a glass.
Perfect. All right, and two hats. Let's do it. Spin it. I think we finally found someone that actually is not present. I didn't see him on today. Did anybody see Tim?
No, he's not on.
No,
All right.
We could do.
Somebody send him a screenshot so he feels bad for missing it.
Wait, let me get my phone. Hang on. Oh, too bad. Missed it.
He'll have to believe you.
Yay.
Jane.
Oh, she just wants all rye. Just deliver her a straight rye.
All right, Jane, congratulations. You get a hat. And then last hat of the bunch.
Unfortunately, it's not a fedora, but
right. Oh, that's close. Mr. Bandy?
Yes, I will take the hat. That's all that's left, right?
Yes, sir.
I'll take it.
Perfect. Good choice. Next tasting you sign up for, just put it in the notes, and I'll get you a bigger package and send it over to you. Well,
Thank you very
congratulations,
much.
everyone. That was a lot of fun. Thank you again to Herman for hooking us up and for spending the evening with us and sharing amazing spirits. And we look forward to checking back with you in the future.
Thanks everybody.
Any big projects you're working on that you're excited about that we should be on the lookout for?
We're doing a test market, and it probably won't make its way to California. We're testing. We have a Washington State Syrah finishing barrel.
Ooh.
That we're pretty excited about. It's a nice marriage. We've done a couple of wine barrel finishes that I thought were stinkers, but this one's pretty good. So that will be available on a limited basis in another month or so. And we're gonna do again limited because we have a 11-year-old barrel that we're gonna put out again locally. So if you know anybody out this way, you might be able to get yourself in on that one. But other than that, it's more of the same. I mean, it's a lot of good rye whiskey.
Nice. Hey, do one thing, do it well. I like it.
All right.
Thanks, Herman.
Okay, guys. Thanks so much. Time for
Thank
me
you,
to
bro.
hit the rack. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Vadim.